Welcome back, everybody. Kevin here, Sans Joe, ready to watch episode 4 of For All Mankind. And I have to tell you, I love this show. This show is utterly fantastic. I know I'm only 3 episodes in, but that last episode where they showed the training through the group of 20 women that they brought in and have currently whittled it down to 4 after the tragic death of Patty. Um, really interesting, even though it felt like kind of a departure already from the main narrative we've seen for the first 2 episodes. As far as like it wasn't really a space race episode, but more of a like background on how people get into the program. Um, and I was thinking immediately my initial impulse because we ended on the crash that killed Patty of the rover trainer. Um, and my thought was, man, this stuff is really dangerous. I'm kind of surprised no one thought about that. And of course, it immediately is like, well, obviously they did. It had to get increasingly dangerous because when the real thing happens, when they're done with training, and you don't know how they're going to handle actual real life and death situations 270,000 miles away when there's not much you can do besides advise them to help them out. So you have to kind of know when you're actually in a dangerous situation how they handle that. So it had to happen that way. And then Neil Armstrong almost died in that. I remember watching that in First Man, which is a movie I really enjoyed. And of course, Patty didn't get punched out in time for it to happen, which leaves us with 4 ladies. And the reason I bring up the danger is I feel like, excuse me, we're at the end of the training, right? So I mean, you don't want to start with something that might kill them. If you're going to weed people out, you want to like have safer ways. Like you didn't pass the flying test, you didn't pass the hiking test, or the mathematics tests, whatever, to kind of weed people down to your finalists, and then you do the dangerous thing because let's face it, you're not trying to kill off half of everybody at the beginning or anybody really. Uh, excuse me. So the reason I bring that up is I feel like because of how dangerous that last test clearly was, we're at the end of the training and we still have 4 quality astronauts left in the training program. So the idea going in was maybe we'll find one, but I'm really hoping that this isn't a situation where it's like, well, we had 4 of you that completely passed, but we're just going to keep one because we only wanted one lady around. I feel like we have Danny, who's clearly qualified, Molly, who is the most qualified, although she doesn't seem to look the part, I guess. Tracy, who managed to do well apparently in that last test with the misdirect there, and I think Ellen was the other girl's name, the one that they said was too pretty to be single, just a really dated concept. Um, but I'm hoping excuse me, moving forward here that all 4 of them are allowed to participate in the program. I'd be really surprised if that wasn't the case, because again, with the danger of that last test, I feel like that was a good final test to determine if you were qualified to be in the program. But we'll see moving forward. I expect to get back not taking the lady or ladies that are in and adding them to the central cast and get more involved with the central cast again as we were in the first 2 episodes um, than we were in the last one. We kind of stepped away for a second in what was exceptional episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, link to our Patreon in the description below if you want to see a Flo's reaction to this and a bunch of other stuff. I shan't bore you with details. Um, you can search to your heart's content. We're going to go ahead and jump in here. How come Sony does this so well? But they can't make a superhero movie to save their lives. That's not true. Some of their stuff's good. The look of this and the coloration with the gold and the black and everything kind of reminds me of the Voyager LP that goes out with the Voyager in case it runs into extraterrestrial life. That's what this kind of is reminiscent of.
You missed a really nice service.
If you need, you can save it for the Tupperware party.
So yeah, see, lashing out and being mean. That seems like her default setting.
Everything we're doing. That's over.
Well, I think they were being sexist and talking about her looks. I can see why people might think Molly's a little rough around the edges, personality-wise.
I just wonder if I'm doing right by these boys.
Right.
I love you.
I love you too.
No, sir. I was her instructor that day. I just Didn't get a chance to talk to you at the funeral.
Oh, God, that sucks. Just hang up the phone. Knew that was coming. It's like, hang it up before you start breaking things.
Sometimes when people are grieving, the last thing they want to
Come
hear
on,
is an
Ed.
explanation.
It's no bother, Mr. Glenn.
Oh, John Glenn.
Men go off and fight the wars and fly the planes. Women can't do what we do.
Oof. This is not a good look for John Glenn.
Everyone knows this wasn't your idea. It was forced on you.
Nobody forced me.
He's being the good soldier that Ed wasn't in the first episode.
We don't know what caused the crash, but we are fairly certain that they lost at least one cosmonaut.
We need to accelerate the base. If they get a foothold up there before we do, they could start putting in missile radar systems.
Apollo 15 will locate a usable site, and the president will announce that mankind's first permanently manned base on the moon.
So he just told them to change what their objective is for Apollo 15.
The ceasefire will take effect at 2400 Greenwich Mean Time, November 16, 1970.
1970. This is a good deepfake.
Turns out Americans don't really want to watch women dying in fiery plane crashes.
God, these people suck.
Now you can put all your focus back on the lunar base.
I love how we don't hide from the fact that like these people who are trying to do their jobs as scientists are being completely railroaded by politicians.
These women are the first to successfully complete all of NASA's required training.
We're letting all four of them in. Good for
Tracy
him.
Stevens.
This is great. I didn't see this coming this soon, but this is awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, America's next Apollo astronauts.
Look what I got for you.
I hope they're playing the long game and this girl gets to be an astronaut someday.
Next Apollo astronauts.
Yeah, it's it.
In other news, the Nixon administration continues the drawdown of U.S. forces in Vietnam.
Good theme. If America focused on science and progress, we would have had a better world.
Now stop looking at the ground. Damn it. Now, you didn't do what I told you, Shane, did you? You get up on this bike and you try again.
God.
You gotta follow my instructions.
I had a neighbor that was like that. He was a police officer, and he used to take his kid out and try to teach him how to hit a baseball, and he was reaming abuse at him all the time. I hated it so much. It's like Mad Men how much these guys drank.
I'm making a change in your crew. Your new LEM pilot will be one of the new astronauts. One of the female astronauts.
Oh, God. Karen's gonna hate that.
So you want the flight or not?
Yeah, a lot of eyes are gonna be on you now. You know, between me and Seji, we got a lot of experience under our belt. So if you just follow our lead.
I have seniority here. Isn't that funny?
I mean, that's not actually true. Ed is going to be the flight commander.
Are you?
It's her big night, and he's wasted.
I'm off 15. Dick replaced me with Molly Cobb. I'm gonna call Jim Rathman. Next week, you and me will go down there. We're gonna pick out a brand new vet.
That's true. I'm not sure how that worked, like how much they had to pay for him or if they paid for him. Yeah.
You and Lady Astronaut over there have been spending an awful lot of time together lately. I mean, chick like that won't be on the market long. And I bet that astronaut tail.
Telling me that I shouldn't worry because they would be there to hold my hand.
I mean, to be fair, they are experienced. He's experienced and she's not.
She's not up to snuff.
That ship has sailed.
What happens if you can't find it within yourself to play nice with this guy?
He could bump you. He could.
I guess he could just bounce me.
Well, we called her place, but there was no answer, so I figured maybe she's with you?
He knows where she is.
Hello.
Oh, she's with the bartender.
I was on the clock. I was just the two of you are getting sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 1970, it's a big deal. Like,
If the bosses find out that you've been lying about anything, they'll interpret it to mean that you could lie about something during a mission. Believe me, I know.
Oh. They're in the same boat.
You're gonna find ice on the moon and inspire people all over the world.
And they don't like each other. Maybe their disdain for this guy will make them friends.
Maybe don't smile.
Is this in her head, or is Margot actually playing piano at a jazz club? Yeah, there was tension between these two. So don't tell him from work I was here. It's like a Duke Silver situation.
You had a real nice groove going there.
This is my husband, Wayne.
So is this like a running joke that everyone just assumes that Molly's into the ladies? In the proximity with someone you don't like this. There's got to be like Richard Gere and Deborah Winger working together and making out in An Officer and a Gentleman when they hated each other.
We just realized the relief tube was designed for, man parts.
But you could wear a diaper.
Worked for the guys on Jiminy.
No one on my crew is going to the moon in a damn diaper.
Yeah.
This is NASA.
She still doesn't know these procedures.
You know I got this right. I was just adjusting the locking harness out of the way.
And stick to the procedure this time, Cobb.
I'll handle the disk key entries until we're in P66. I'll actuate the manual throttle to full on my side.
What? Why?
He doesn't trust you. Because the truth is, you're not good enough, Molly. Not right now.
Is she just not working hard enough? Hopefully that lit a fire under her. I really want her to succeed.
Sure, it's gonna be a hell of a ride.
Look at me! You're doing great.
It seems to be okay without somebody yelling at him.
Hello?
Where the hell were you last night?
Yeah, he's projecting.
What was that?
Oh my.
Hey, I gotta run. I'll call you later. Love you.
Karen Baldwin.
Wayne Cobb. It's a great dress.
I like Wayne so far. I like the saturation here. This is and then how bright this is. Everything looks very sanitized. It's almost all women this time, which is great. This is actually quite lovely. Oh, that's her. Okay, it took me a second.
Final guidance alignment. The final maneuver the astronauts perform before liftoff.
Nope, just Pam. Yeah. I don't know why a launch gets me every time, but it does.
I'm going to the moon.
Yeah, you are. Geraldine M. Cobb. I'm not sure who that is. She just passed in 2019. I'm not sure when the season was. I'm assuming it was pretty close. Okay. Man, this show does not disappoint. We picked right up where we left off. I love the fact that even after all four of the women had completed their training, there was still doubt that they would be able to get in, and it took an act of defiance to actually make them astronauts. Deke is obviously out to prove a point, a point here, and he's doing it quite well. I think Molly was the right choice. Man, you can get why people think she's a bit abrasive. I thought she was the first time you met her, but I mean, obviously she was in an impossible competition. I think Margot ended up being kind of a wake-up call for her, and I think we've kind of got the sense that she and Ed are actually going to be stronger comrades than we thought initially. I thought initially. They seem to have very similar alpha personalities, which is obviously not always a good thing and not always a bad thing. But in this circumstance, I really feel like they can be close, and I hope that they do. You're wondering, like, well, there's always that part in your head. You're like, well, I hope this doesn't end in tragedy. The first woman, the American woman in space on a show that can do whatever it wants historically. But that phone call from Nixon, for whatever reason, kind of reassures me. Like, the threat to Deke, like, if she screws it up, it's on you. And I'm like, well, then obviously she's not going to screw it up. So I'm kind of curious to see how this goes. I'm assuming we're going to spend at least a chunk of the episode, if not the entire episode, on this particular mission, because it's like two of the characters we focused on the most in the show with Ed and Molly. I've already from Strickland. I've already kind of forgotten about the guy that's the mission pilot, the command module pilot. But when they're on the moon, he's not going to be there anyway. He's going to be in orbit. So I feel like the next episodes we're going to focus on these two working together to determine if they can find water and to find a place to put a military moon base, which is kind of what it sounds like the objective is. And I expect that to all go well because it's our two lead hero characters. And I kind of, even though she wasn't in the first two, I consider Molly kind of the lead character now. Obviously, she's significant. I don't know. This show kind of as we skew further and further away from factual history, it can kind of do whatever it wants. So that what I expect to happen changes. There's no easy way to predict what's going to happen next, simply because they can kind of do whatever they want. They've written the rules that way, right? No one goes to a Quentin Tarantino movie saying, "I know exactly how this is going to end because of history," because we know that's not the case at all. And this show, since it can do that, there's a number of things that can happen here. I feel like, as a betting man, just in terms of how you weave a narrative, I feel like the mission's going to be successful. I feel like they're going to find a place to put a moon base. I feel like they're going to find water. I feel like Molly's going to be an integral part of that, because I think that's really kind of the point, right? The exclusion of women from the space program, by virtue of, as John Glenn kind of pointed out, was initially using only military test pilots. So really, it was the military sexism and not NASA's sexism that kind of kept women away. Is kind of being righted here, and I would have a really hard time if the show was like, "Oh, and look, we put one lady on the moon way before we let other women go to space, and look how she blew it." So I don't expect that to be the case at all. Really, kind of looking forward to, we've kind of gotten away from it since episode 1, but actually having people in space is going to be kind of cool. Having astronauts in space, I'm hoping we actually get some time on the moon. I know that sounds silly, but I like the idea of actually seeing some of the space exploration as it happens. We saw a little bit of it in the episode 1 and 2 with Apollo 11, the end of 1, beginning of 2 with Apollo 11, and kind of looking forward to seeing more of that moving forward. And I feel like we might get a good chunk of that in the next episode, hopefully. But anyway, this was, as always, a great time, a lot of fun, really, really thrilling and compelling television. And I look forward to seeing what's next. I'll see you then, guys.